Story 1. The gift that never came. Emma had always dreaded Valentine's Day. For most people, it was a holiday filled with roses, chocolates, and declarations of love. For her, it was a bitter reminder of what she didn't have: no husband, no long-term partner, no children, just silence in her small suburban house and the distant sounds of laughter from couples celebrating in restaurants downtown. Her life wasn't terrible. She worked as a librarian, had a few good friends, and enjoyed quiet evenings with books. But when February rolled around each year, the holiday pressed down on her chest like a weight. She would always wake up, sigh, and mark another Valentine's Day as one spent alone. That changed the year she turned 30. It started with a card slipped under her door. The envelope was pink, decorated with tiny red hearts. The message inside was simple: "You are loved. Be mine." No signature, no return address. Emma laughed at first, figuring it was some mix-up, maybe a neighbor's prank. Still, she placed the card on her shelf. The next year, another card came. This one was handwritten in looping cursive. "I think of you always, even when you don't see me. Happy Valentine's, my love." Her pulse quickened. Was someone at work interested in her? She mentally ran through the men at the library: Mr. Jacobs, who was married, or the young intern who barely spoke. None fit. Year after year, the cards continued, each one more intense. "Your beauty keeps me alive. I dream of holding you forever. I am watching over you." By her mid-30s, Emma no longer found them flattering. She told herself it was harmless, some admirer too shy to step forward. But something about the handwriting unsettled her. It looked strangely familiar, almost like her own. On Valentine's Day, the year she turned 36, the tradition shifted. Instead of just a card, a package waited on her doorstep. A white box tied with a red ribbon. Inside was a withered bouquet of roses, their petals brittle and blackened as if burned. Nestled among them was a porcelain doll. Emma's breath caught. The doll's face was cracked, its left eye missing. Someone had painted its lips red and its cheeks with pink blush. But what made Emma drop the box was the detail etched onto its face. Its features resembled hers. The same arching brows, the same faint mole near the lip. Her stomach twisted. She threw the doll in the trash and locked her doors. For weeks afterward, Emma lived in a fog of unease. She kept curtains drawn, double-checked her locks, and jumped at every creak of the house. She told her friend Jenna, who laughed it off, saying, "At least someone likes you that much. I'd kill for a secret admirer." Emma didn't laugh. The next year, she swore she would not stay home alone. On Valentine's night, she went out with co-workers, staying late just to avoid the oppressive quiet. But when she returned home, exhaustion pulling her down, she froze in the doorway. The doll was sitting on her couch. Its cracked face was tilted toward the door, waiting. "It's missing." I seemed to bore into her. Emma's hands shook as she backed out, heart hammering. She was certain she'd thrown it away last year. She ran to a neighbor's house and asked them to check. When they entered, the doll was gone. The couch was empty. No one believed her. Another year passed, and Emma's dread grew. February became unbearable. She considered leaving town, but work tied her down. Valentine's morning arrived with a sick knot in her stomach. She stayed alert, refusing to open the door to anyone, refusing to check her porch. That night, she jolted awake to the sound of something moving in her bedroom. Her throat tightened. Slowly, she turned her head. Moonlight spilled through the window, and on her chest sat the doll. Its cracked porcelain fingers pressed into her nightshirt. Its mouth moved, opening and closing with a faint creak. Then she heard it, a whisper, delicate and chilling, in a voice that was her own. "Be mine forever." Emma screamed, shoving the doll off. It hit the floor with a sharp crack, but didn't shatter. She bolted for the door, fumbling with the lock, her lungs on fire. She made it halfway across the living room before something yanked her back. The last thing she saw before the world went black was the doll crawling toward her on broken limbs, whispering her words back at her. Days later, Jenna noticed Emma hadn't shown up for work. Concerned, she drove to her house. The front door was unlocked. The air inside felt heavy, stale, as if no one had breathed there for days. She called out Emma's name, moving through the silent house, her heart sinking with each unanswered step. When she reached the bedroom, she froze. Emma was lying motionless in bed, her arms wrapped tightly around the porcelain doll. Her eyes were open, glassy, her lips twisted in a faint, unnatural smile. The doll's cracked face pressed into hers as though it were kissing her cheek. On the nightstand sat a card, pink envelope, red hearts. Jenna picked it up with trembling hands. The message inside read, "Happy Valentine's Day, my love. You are mine now." There was no signature, only 2 words written where the name should have been. Love, Me. Story 2, the Valentine's dance in the small town of Ashwood. The old high school stood like a scar. Its windows were broken, the brickwork scorched black, the gymnasium a hollowed-out ruin. Locals whispered about what had happened there on Valentine's Day, 1965, when a fire broke out during the annual school dance. The fire had spread so quickly that dozens of students never made it out. The town buried them together in a mass grave, their names carved into a memorial plaque that still stood outside the gates. Since then, no one touched the building. Parents warned their children to stay away, claiming the place was cursed. But in every generation, there were always a few who didn't listen. This year, 5 teenagers decided to sneak in. Amber, the ringleader, had a YouTube channel where she posted ghost hunting videos. She thought the story of the Ashwood Valentine's dance would make perfect content. Her boyfriend, Kyle, brought the camera. Along for the ride were Jenna, the skeptic, Marcus, who claimed to love ghosts but really just wanted to impress Jenna, and little brother Tyler, who begged Amber not to leave him behind. They went in on February 14th, just before midnight. The air was sharp with cold, and the gym loomed ahead like a dark mouth waiting to swallow them. "We're really doing this," Kyle whispered as he adjusted the camera light. Amber smirked. "Of course, people will eat this up." Inside, the gym was a husk blackened beams overhead, graffiti scrawled across walls, broken glass crunching under their shoes. But as they walked deeper in, Tyler froze. "Do you hear that?" They all went silent. Faintly, under the whistling wind, came a sound. Music, soft, melodic, a 1960s ballad drifting through the air as though someone had turned on an old record player. Jenna shook her head. "It's just the wind, or some kids messing with us." But the music grew louder as they stepped further inside. And that wasn't all. Red streamers hung from the ceiling where charred rafters should have been. Heart-shaped balloons floated lazily in the corners. The blackened floor shimmered, shifting until it looked polished and waxed, as if the fire had never touched it. Kyle muttered a curse under his breath. The camera picked up every detail, but it wasn't just the lens, the decorations were there. Amber's excitement surged. "This is it. This is real evidence." Marcus tugged at Jenna's sleeve. "We should go, now." But then they saw the dancers. At first, they looked like shadows, silhouettes of couples gliding across the gym floor, twirling to the slow, haunting music. But as the teens watched, the shadows took shape. Dresses with wide skirts, boys in suits, corsages pinned to wrists, faces pale, eyes empty. Ghosts. One of the dancers, a girl in a crimson dress, looked directly at Amber. Her lips curved into a smile that wasn't human. It was too wide, too hollow. She lifted her hand and beckoned. Amber felt her body move without thought. Her feet carried her onto the dance floor, her arms outstretched. "Amber," Kyle shouted, grabbing her wrist. But the ghostly girl had already taken her other hand. In a blink, Amber was gone. The space where she'd stood was empty, save for the faint outline of her figure now twirling among the dead. Tyler screamed. "She's in there. She's dancing." Kyle rushed forward, but Marcus yanked him back. "No, don't touch them." The music swelled. Another couple of ghosts peeled away, drifting toward Jenna. Her breath hitched as icy hands brushed hers. She stumbled back, but the air thickened like invisible glue, holding her in place. "Help me," she cried. Marcus grabbed her waist, pulling hard. For a moment, he thought he'd saved her, but in his hands, he held only her jacket. Jenna was gone, her body lost among the spinning dancers. Tyler sobbed, clutching Kyle's arm. "We have to get out. Please." They turned for the door. The exit loomed ahead, glowing faintly with moonlight. They ran only to slam into solid wood. No matter how hard Kyle shoved, the door didn't budge. He turned back in horror. The gym had grown larger, endless, the walls stretching into shadow. Everywhere he looked, couples danced. Among them, Amber and Jenna twirled, their faces slack, their eyes glassy, dressed now in vintage prom clothes. Marcus swore and tried another door. Again, it opened only to reveal more of the dance floor, as if the building had no way out. The music grew louder, pressing against their skulls. "Don't stop the dance," a voice whispered. Kyle spun around. A boy in a charred tuxedo stood inches away, his face half melted, eyes like burnt coal. He grinned. "Everyone stays for the Valentine's dance." Before Kyle could react, the boy grabbed him and pulled him into the crowd. He vanished, swallowed by the dancers. Marcus and Tyler were the only ones left. Tyler clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably. "We're gonna die here," he cried. "No," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "Not if we don't look. Don't look at them." He grabbed Tyler's hand and forced his eyes shut, guiding him forward. They stumbled, tripping over nothing. the music drilling into their heads. They didn't stop until Tyler broke free, screaming. Marcus opened his eyes and saw Tyler already in the arms of a ghostly woman, spinning in circles, his mouth slack, his eyes empty. No, Marcus lunged, but his fingers touched nothing. Tyler was gone. He was alone. The dancers turned toward him, dozens of pale faces smiling in unison. Their voices blended into a chorus. Dance with us. Cold hands grabbed him from every direction. His body went rigid, pulled into the crowd. His last scream was swallowed by the music as he vanished among the endless waltz. Decades later, another group of thrill-seekers entered the ruins of Ashwood High on Valentine's night. They carried flashlights and phones, laughing nervously in the dust. They found an old camcorder. The tape still worked. On the screen, 5 teenagers stared back, their faces pale, their eyes hollow, their lips curved into eerie smiles. Dressed in 1960s prom attire, they danced forever beneath the red streamers, the song looping endlessly in the background. The Valentine's dance would never end. Story 3. Roses in the Graveyard. Daniel had never missed a Valentine's Day. Every February 14th, without fail, he drove to the countryside cemetery with a bouquet of fresh red roses. He laid them gently on the grave of Lily, who had died 3 years earlier in a car accident. They had been just weeks from their wedding when her life was stolen, and Daniel never forgave himself for surviving. The ritual was his way of keeping her memory alive. He didn't care that his friends told him to move on, or that his family said he was stuck in the past. For Daniel, Lily was the only woman he had ever truly loved. That year, the cemetery was quiet as always. Snow dusted the ground, and a cold wind carried the scent of pine. Daniel brushed snow from her headstone, tracing the letters of her name with trembling fingers. Lily Ann Carter, 1994 to 2019, always loved, forever missed. He set the roses down, whispered a prayer, and lingered, as he always did. He felt the silence press in, heavy with memories. Finally, he turned to leave. The next morning, he drove past the cemetery on his way to work. Out of habit, he glanced toward Lily's grave. His heart lurched. The roses were gone. He pulled over, sprinting across the snow. The headstone was bare, no flowers, no petals. The ground looked disturbed, as if someone or something had taken them. Daniel's chest tightened. Who would steal flowers from a grave? That night, his dreams were filled with Lily's voice, soft, desperate, echoing through the dark. Daniel, Daniel, let me out, please. He woke drenched in sweat, her voice still ringing in his ears. He tried to dismiss it, but the following night, the dreams returned. This time, he saw her face pale, dirt smeared across her cheeks, eyes wide with terror as she clawed at something above her. He couldn't ignore it anymore. On the third night, he went back to the cemetery with another bouquet. Snow had melted slightly, revealing the muddy ground. That's when he saw them, footprints, small, bare footprints, leading away from Lily's grave. They stretched across the cemetery, stopping at the fence, then continuing toward the direction of his home. Daniel staggered back, his breath catching. His mind scrambled for explanations, kids playing pranks, animals. But the footprints were human, delicate, unmistakably hers. That night, a knock came at his door. 3 sharp raps. Daniel's heart pounded as he approached. He opened it slowly. No one was there, but on the porch lay the roses he had placed earlier, stems broken, petals brown and wilting. A smear of dirt streaked across his doormat. His phone buzzed. A new voicemail. He put it on speaker, hands trembling. The message was faint, crackling with static, but the voice was clear. Lily's voice. Dance with me, Daniel. One last Valentine's dance. Daniel collapsed into a chair, clutching his head. It wasn't possible. She was gone, dead and buried. And yet, a knock came again, louder this time. He spun around. Standing in the doorway was Lily. Her wedding dress clung to her in tatters, caked with dirt. Her skin was pale, her lips blue, her hair tangled with roots. But it was her eyes once warm and alive now glassy, locked onto his. Lily, he whispered. She smiled faintly. You kept bringing me roses, you never forgot. Her voice was soft, broken, as if it traveled from the grave itself. Daniel's knees gave way. He backed against the wall, trembling. You're not real. She stepped closer, leaving muddy footprints on the floor. The air grew thick with the scent of earth and rot. I waited, Daniel. I've been waiting under the ground, calling for you. You heard me, didn't you? His throat tightened. Tears welled in his eyes. I love you, Lily. I never stopped. Then dance with me. She extended her hand. Against every instinct, against every scream in his mind, Daniel took it. Her fingers were ice, stiff and damp, but familiar. She pulled him close, and suddenly they were swaying, slow and rhythmic, as if to music only she could hear. Daniel's tears streamed freely as he held her. For a moment it felt like old times, the warmth of her presence, the love he thought he'd lost forever. But then he felt her body shift. Her flesh softened, peeling under his grip. Chunks of dirt fell from her dress. Her cheek pressed against his shoulder, cold and crumbling. Her voice rasped in his ear. "Now stay with me, forever." Daniel tried to pull away, but her arms tightened like iron bands. Her mouth opened wider, whispering faster, her words a chant. "Stay, stay, stay." He felt the ground give way beneath his feet. Darkness swallowed him, his lungs filled with the smell of soil, damp and suffocating. He clawed at her arms, but she only pulled him tighter. The last thing he saw was her face, smiling as earth poured into his mouth. When the caretaker came to the cemetery days later, he noticed something strange. Lily's grave looked disturbed. The soil was freshly overturned, and roses, fresh, vibrant red roses, grew wildly from the mound, though no one had planted them. Authorities later found Daniel's body. He was discovered in the grave, wrapped tightly around Lily's coffin, as though he had been embracing it from the inside. His face was serene, his lips curved in a faint smile. On the gravestone, someone had carved new words beneath Lily's name: "Together, forever." Story 4. The Valentine caller. Sarah had never been the type to romanticize Valentine's Day. She was a practical college student, more concerned with exams and part-time shifts than with candlelit dinners. Still, she felt the sting of loneliness when couples flooded her campus with roses and balloons. That year, she spent Valentine's night alone in her small apartment. Her roommate Mia was out with her boyfriend. Sarah had pizza, an open textbook, and the muffled sound of laughter drifting from the street below. At 9:13 p.m. her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. She frowned, debating whether to answer. Curiosity. 1. Hello. A pause. Then, a low male whisper. "I love you, Sarah." She froze. The voice was soft, intimate, as if spoken directly into her ear. "Who is this?" she demanded. No reply, just breathing. Then the line went dead. Her stomach tightened. Maybe it was a prank. She set the phone aside, shaking her head. At 9:45, it rang again. "Sarah." The whisper came, dragging out her name. "You look beautiful tonight." Her blood ran cold. She was wearing old pajamas, her hair tied up messily. There was no way anyone could see her unless she shot up, yanking the curtains closed. Her hands shook as she grabbed the phone. "If you don't stop calling, I'll report you." A laugh echoed faintly before the call ended. Sarah tried to calm down. It had to be someone from school messing with her. But when the third call came at 10:02, she didn't answer. Her voicemail lit up seconds later. She pressed play. The message was the same whisper, chillingly close. "Don't ignore me. I can see you. I know you're alone." Her heart hammered. She dialed Mia, but her call went straight to voicemail. Sarah considered calling the police, but what would she say? That some creep was making prank calls. Another buzz, this time a text. "Unknown, check the window." Her breath caught. She forced herself to peek. Across the street, in the shadows between two lampposts, a figure stood, motionless, watching. She dropped the curtain and locked herself in the bathroom, gripping her phone like a lifeline. The calls kept coming, each one labeled unknown. The voicemail box filled with whispers. "I've waited for this night. I'm closer than you think. Will you be my Valentine, Sarah?" Tears burned her eyes. She finally dialed 911, her voice trembling as she explained. The operator promised to send officers. At 10:37, the phone rang again. She didn't want to answer, but something compelled her. Her hand moved as if not her own. She pressed it to her ear. "Don't bother with the police," the voice whispered. "They won't make it in time. I'm already inside." The line went dead. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps. She slowly opened the bathroom door, scanning the dark apartment. Every shadow felt alive, every creak of the wood like a footstep. She grabbed a kitchen knife and backed into her bedroom. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold it. The apartment was silent. For a moment she let herself believe it was over, that she'd imagined it all. Then something slid under her bedroom door. A card, pink envelope, red hearts. Her knees nearly gave out as she picked it up. Inside, the message was scrawled in jagged handwriting. "Will you be mine? Look behind you." Sarah dropped the card and spun, knife raised. The room was empty. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. The caller ID read, Unknown Valentine. The ringtone echoed unnaturally loud, filling the room like a heartbeat. She couldn't breathe, she couldn't move. Slowly, mechanically, she answered, "Turn off the light." The bulb above her flickered, then went black. Darkness swallowed everything. Her scream cut the silence. When Mia returned at 1 a.m., the apartment was eerily quiet. She laughed softly, expecting Sarah had gone to bed, maybe still annoyed at being alone on Valentine's. But when she entered the bedroom, her laughter died. Sarah wasn't there. The phone lay on the floor, still lit up with missed calls. One name repeated across the screen over and over: Unknown Valentine. On the bed sat the pink Valentine's card, open and waiting. Inside, fresh words had been written. "Thank you for saying yes." Story 5. The chocolate box. Paul had never been faithful. His wife, Claire, didn't know, not really, but deep down, Paul was sure she suspected. She had grown quiet over the years, the laughter fading from her eyes. Valentine's Day always seemed to sting her more. He told himself he didn't care. He worked hard, provided for the house, and deserved his distractions. That year, when Valentine's morning came, Paul expected the usual routine. Claire would cook breakfast. He'd mutter a half-hearted "Happy Valentine's," and then head to the office. What he didn't expect was the gift. It was waiting on his desk when he arrived at work, a pristine white box tied with a crimson ribbon. A small card rested on top. "For you, only you." Paul smirked. Well, maybe one of his secret flings had gone bold. Inside was a luxury box of chocolates, glossy and perfect, each piece nestled in gold foil. The scent of cocoa drifted up, rich and intoxicating. He popped one into his mouth. Sweet, velvety, with a strange tempt he couldn't quite place. By the end of the day, he had eaten 3. That night, Paul felt different, lighter, sharper. The stress of work melted away, his mind humming with energy. He kissed Claire on the cheek with unusual enthusiasm, surprising her. For the first time in years, they had dinner together without tension. He told himself it was nothing, just good chocolate. But the next night, he couldn't resist opening the box again. Oddly, it looked untouched. The pieces he'd eaten were back, perfectly arranged, the box as full as before. Paul blinked. Had he imagined finishing them? No, he remembered the taste vividly. Yet the box was whole, waiting, smiling to himself. He ate 2 more. Within a week, the chocolates became an obsession. He couldn't stop. Each night he promised himself he'd save them, but by midnight he was sneaking into the kitchen, tearing the ribbon off with trembling hands. The more he ate, the stranger he felt, euphoric, almost drunk on sweetness. Yet at the same time, paranoid. He heard whispers in the dark, faint voices calling his name. When he looked in mirrors, he swore his reflection smirked a moment later than he did. Claire noticed his decline. He grew pale, his eyes sunken. He lost weight rapidly, yet he kept insisting he felt better than ever. She begged him to see a doctor. "Relax," he snapped one night. "It's just candy. Can't a man enjoy a damn gift without being nagged?" Her eyes shimmered with hurt, but she said nothing. On February 13th, Paul found a note tucked beneath the chocolates. "Only one left. Eat it on Valentine's night, and we'll be together forever." The handwriting was jagged, the ink smeared like dried blood. Paul chuckled nervously, probably one of his old flings playing some kinky game. But deep down, unease gnawed at him. That night, he dreamed of a woman he didn't recognize, tall, draped in black, her lips red as wine. She leaned close, whispering, "Tomorrow, my love, tomorrow you're mine." He woke drenched in sweat, his tongue aching for chocolate. Valentine's Day arrived, and Claire tried her best. She cooked dinner, lit candles, even wore the red dress he once adored. Paul hardly noticed. His mind was fixed on the box waiting upstairs. He endured dinner with forced smiles, but as soon as Claire turned away to wash the dishes, he slipped into the bedroom. The box sat on the bed, ribbon gleaming as though freshly tied. Only one piece remained, a heart-shaped chocolate, darker than night. Paul lifted it, his mouth watering. For a moment, guilt tugged at him. He should be downstairs with his wife, not obsessing over some anonymous gift, but the craving one. He bit into it. Instantly, his body convulsed. Pain ripped through his veins like fire. He collapsed onto the bed, choking, the chocolate melting bitter on his tongue. His skin burned, his chest seized. Then, a voice. At last, the woman from his dreams stood at the foot of the bed, her gown flowing like liquid shadow. She smiled, revealing teeth too sharp. Paul gasped. Who are you? She touched his cheek, her fingers cold as ice. I am the one you betrayed, the one you forgot. You promised me forever, and now you've delivered. His mind reeled. Faces of women he'd abandoned flashed before him, but none matched hers. This was no mortal lover. She leaned down, lips brushing his ear. Your soul is mine, Paul. You fed me night after night. Now I take what remains. His body stiffened, his skin cracked, sugar crystallizing along his arms, his chest, his face. He tried to scream, but his mouth froze mid-cry, his eyes glazing over like glass. Moments later, Paul was gone. All that remained on the bed was a perfect sugar statue, his form frozen in agony. The woman in black lifted the box, now empty, and disappeared into the shadows. Claire found him the next morning. Her husband lay motionless, his body hard as glass, glittering faintly in the sunlight. She touched his arm, and it crumbled into shards that cut her palms. On the pillow beside him rested the white box. It was full again, every chocolate pristine, tied neatly with the crimson ribbon. A new note lay on top. Happy Valentine's Day, Claire. Enjoy.